it is really important to have these kind of discussions in academic setting, because people come here unburdened by political agendas, and then can provide different perspectives and create a kind of forum where how would I put it, new ideas emerge.
So, I would agree with some of the speakers that there is potential in the reform. It's only a question of who are going to be interlocutors in this dialogue, and whether it's going to be, again, at the expense of the most vulnerable populations in B&H. So far, my views are rather pessimistic.
Dayton is often used as an excuse by local decision makers for not taking action on important issues, and some of these issues are socioeconomic issues which have been pushed aside generally in the last few decades.
Given the 20 years that it's been since the agreement was signed, and the massive infusion of money and people and assistance by the international community, I think it's somewhat only natural that even now, 20 years later, people in Bosnia expect the international community to continue to help, and that's not a criticism. I think that's probably just the way things have developed here, given the size of the international involvement.
It's definitely an urgent issue, and especially with current sort of situation in the world, whereas Bosnia for a long time was no longer on the agenda. It was of nobody's really interest. Now it's on the refugee route. It's a post-flood country, post-war country, post-socialist country. We have all these posts, and yet, as was mentioned today, we have people who want to leave this country, who are actually, the joke is that the only good thing that Bosnia is, or will find itself on this route, that Bosnians will leave together with Syrians. So it's a serious problem, and it only remains to be seen how the entire situation will unfold.
Unfortunately, as has already been mentioned here, a lot of times the civil society, which is supposedly tasked with providing this kind of independent input into the debate on the future of Bosnia or different countries in the region, has also suffered from a range of problems dealing with the professionalization or dependency on donor agendas when it comes to dealing with the issues that affect Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Realizing, of course, this is 20 years after the war has ended, I think there are a lot of wounds that are still fresh. I don't feel a great sense of unity among the ethnic groups, among the political parties, which are really divided among the ethnic groups. And so I think it took a long time, for instance, to come to an agreement on what the flag would look like of a united Bosnia. They wrote a tune for a national anthem, but they couldn't agree on the lyrics.
This is the stage which the rector of CU mentioned today, that as his criticism, that during this first stage, everybody who was involved with war crimes and the war in general should have been arrested. Not just arrested, maybe there should have been some public shaming, naming shaming, etc., etc. Well, what happened that during those 10 years, these people were in some sort of cocoons. They were sheltered. They were not. Only a few of them were processed by ICTY. Local courts didn't really take on this responsibility. So the sort of the Dayton or the ethno-partocracy logic continued and lived on.
The role of external actors in Bosnia and Herzegovina has always attracted a lot of attention, but usually for either the very wrong reasons. There was a lot of discussion about the role of Turkey in Bosnia and Herzegovina as well, and basically the reason why I got interested in the whole issue and started researching and writing about it is to really fact-check the popular lore, as the title of one of my articles actually says. So what's really behind? Is there an agenda? What agenda it is? And the findings don't really prove these rather sensationalist views of Turkey's interest in Bosnia as going to being part of this neo-Ottoman agenda.
Now I think it's becoming obvious that Dayton is really, it does stall decision-making processes, But it cannot be the only reason why we have, for example, very high unemployment and a generally weak welfare state. And essentially, what is necessary currently is a broader discussion on these issues that can essentially bring about policy change independent of Dayton.
The fact that there is an integrated armed forces in Bosnia and Herzegovina that consists of three separate military groups that were actually fighting against each other, and has been integrated over the past 10 years. That's a miracle in itself, and the fact that they have undertaken under these international commitments as well, that I think is one of the big success stories since the end of the war. Does it work perfectly at every level? No, of course not. Do they have more progress to make? Sure.